We are live.
Greetings, sub creatures.
Hi.
Welcome to brunch.
Brunch with the Admiral.
My dog is having a conversation with the idiot dog next door. So pardon the yirps in the background.
Well, my grandson is, I don't know if you can hear him, but he's whining out there about something.
You reach a point in parenthood where that sort of gets automatically tuned out.
Yeah.
Nicole is still shocked by the fact that he apparently knows my name and Rick's name just by seeing us on screen.
Well, it was more of I was laying in the bed last week when you guys were streaming. I was laying in the bed and I was watching on my phone, and he was kind of playing next to me, and he came over and looked and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's Scott." He said, "Scott." And I said, "And Rick."
All right, so it'll help a little bit for her to know that he was being introduced to us at the time.
Yeah, well,
so it's not just, oh, I know those guys. That's him and him.
Yeah, he's getting to where he can repeat just about any word that you and sometimes they don't like. Well, I was reading a book to him the other day, and one of the words was typewriter. That didn't come out right. And my wife is really, really starting to get kind of worried because we have a pond outside the apartment, but she calls it a lake. It's a pond, but she calls it a lake. And they were out on the patio and naming different things. And she pointed at the pond and she said lake, and he said cock. He said, please learn to say that word better before you say it in public.
Friend of mine many years ago, his little boy had trouble saying the FR.
Mm-hmm.
And FR and TR were problems for him.
Yeah.
So fire truck was always fun to hear him. And of course, we being the assholes that we were, we would, hey James, what's that? What's that coming out? Yeah. Fuck! It's a fuck. But this same kid, through no nefarious deeds of our own, his first sentence was, "Look, mommy, oh shit, a bug." So.
Yeah, you learn real quick that they're listening more than they're talking. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, Sharon's at that point now where she's almost obsessed with, the H word and the S word and the B word, and every now and then she'll be like, "What's the Z word?" I'm like,
the Z word,
or is it, is the Z word a bad word? I have no idea what you're talking about. But
she hasn't quite realized that not every letter in the alphabet has profanity linked to it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I'm not sure who this says Facebook user, and they're saying, "Good day, fellas."
Good day, Facebook user.
Facebook user.
Good day, mystery guest.
I think there's something that you have to click on Facebook to allow StreamYard to show your profile picture. And if you don't do that, it just shows you as Facebook user. So,
and you don't even get a number like back in the old Ustream days where you'd be like user number 750,302.
No, your name doesn't come up unless your name is Facebook user. If it is, I apologize.
If it is, your parents were amazingly prescient.
Yeah.
So, what do y'all want to talk about today? Oh, keep an eye out. I sent the link to Gordon Gogsy from Little Pot of Horrors.
Okay.
I don't know if he's available or it's Chris.
Oh,
hi, Chris.
Howdy, Chris.
Chris, get on over here. Jump in. Let folks see your
Let me send
wonderful morning hair.
Chris, I will send you a link. Actually, I'll just post it in the conversation here. So anybody that wants, up to 6 people. Let's see.
I've had a busy day already. I have been to work. I have been to McDonald's. I have gotten dinner in the crock pot. I've done a little more work on rearranging my setup back here.
Oh, no, that's not Chris. That's Adrian Salerno.
Oh. So he's masquerading as Chris.
Unless it's
or they're both in there, but they both have the same name right now.
Yeah. I had an idea.
Good, because I don't.
You want to talk about the decline of shopping malls in America?
Not really.
I watched a.
Well, we could. I mean, I haven't been to mine in quite some time, even well before the pandemic, and I suppose that makes me part of the problem, then, doesn't it?
The reason I bring it up is because I watched a documentary the other night, and the name of it was Jasper Mall. And Jasper Mall is not far from where I live, maybe about an hour's drive. And it's just a random, run-of-the-mill shopping mall. But over the years, more and more of the stores have been moving out because more people are buying things online. They're not going to the mall as much. The anchor stores have closed down because 2 of their anchor stores were JCPenney and Kmart. Ooh. And so they've both closed down. And so they did this documentary. And I liked the documentary, but I didn't like it at the same time because I liked the fact that it was just kind of following this guy that's kind of he's the security guy, he's the janitor, he's the manager, he's everything, and they're following him around, and you're meeting some of the store owners and listening to their stories. And some of them, like there's a florist in it, and she retires by the end of it. And
but at the same,
yeah, well, yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Most documentaries, there is a story to it. There's no real story. This is we're just going to follow this guy around this mall for a year, and we're going to see things that happen, and it's there's no arc, so that's the downside of it is that there's really no point to it other than if you just like people watching, because that's what you're doing. You're people watching in this documentary. And I mean, you do meet some characters. You meet these 4 old men that like to get together on the food court every morning and play dominoes, and they're all making fun of each other.
That's not the only thing I use. I mean, I almost never shop at the mall.
Yeah,
like we live literally across the street. Well, it's across a lot of streets, but we are, as the crow flies, less than 5 minutes away from the Countryside Mall in Clearwater here. And I used to drive half an hour to come to this mall to bring Sharon up to it, because malls are great for if you've got little kids, especially in Florida. They're great for when it's just too damn hot outside to play.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to pay to go to one of the indoor play areas. So you just take your kid to the mall, and she can run around in the play area, and you're in the air conditioning, and you get free Wi-Fi, and that's all fine. But sometime last year, she outgrew the play area, which she still is disgruntled about. And I never shop there. I mean, the only time I ever shop at a mall is like Christmas time or birthdays. Because, I mean, it's just a given. Everything at the mall is so much more expensive than you can get the same thing anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now, our mall has one of the few ThinkGeek stores in it. So that's always fun to go into. But even then, I hardly ever buy anything there because the stuff I want is really stupid expensive. And the stuff that's affordable is not anything I want.
Yeah.
And or it's cheap crap. Or it's both.
Yeah. Or both, yeah. I think, malls they were a great idea 20 years ago. I mean, hell, I remember when we first moved to Florida. So I was 13 and my brother was 12. Yeah. No, 11. There's 2 years between us. Math is hard at this time of day. And we used to come home from school and, you know, both of my folks worked. So we were, you know, we were the latchkey kids, you know, I think there could be a poster of that with me on it. And we would take 50 cents and go get on the bus and take the bus to the Midway Mall in Miami. And we would just hang out at the mall for 3 or 4 hours until it was time to go home. And, you know, the shoe store, I think it was a Buster Brown shoes, come to think of it. I'm going to take a trip in the Wayback Machine. That, you know, this was 1978. So they had Star Wars sneakers and they had a C-3PO mask and a Darth Vader mask that they would let us go in and play with. And that was the shit for us. And then we would just wander around and play on the escalators. There was an arcade there, but we're talking the old analog pinball machines.
Yeah.
Or like there was a fighter jet game that you sat in, but it was a projection screen. So it was just kind of like this moving projection that made it look like the sky flying by. And then basically slides of other jets would come up and you'd shoot at them. And then if you hit them, it would quick switch to a slide of an explosion. I mean, it was like real low tech stuff compared to now.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, when you're 13, you don't care. This is like really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And games like Sub Chaser, which was, you know, you're looking through a periscope and it's real. I mean, the most basic graphics you can imagine for the torpedoes. And I mean, literally just light being projected on this fake ocean with little mechanical ships going by and stuff. But we loved it. We had a blast there.
Yeah. Brandon says he used to ride his bike to the mall and spend the whole day there. Arcade, comic shop, video shop. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know why the mall is going away. I mean, it's still, in my mind, it's still a good idea. You've got lots of stores and they're all right there together and you've got places to eat. And the only downside is if you're just going, I need to go to the mall and get a pair of shoes. Well, it's a big ordeal to park your car and go into the mall to go to the shoe store and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I was the same way. You know, we've got the River Chase Galleria, which I know, Rick, you've seen because it's attached to the hotel where we had Magic City Con. Mm-hmm. And it's a big mall. It's right here close to where I live. And it's actually probably the biggest shopping mall I've ever been in, because most shopping malls around here are they're one floor and probably, I don't know, 40 stores, a couple of anchor stores. The Galleria's got like 200 stores, you know, and like 4 anchors, I think. And then they've also got a hotel and they've got a business building attached to it as well. But yeah, I guess a lot more people are, number one, they're buying stuff online. I know I buy a lot of what I need online. You can't, what is that? Phone?
That's my phone. Hang on.
Somebody's phone. I'm a bigger guy, so it's hard for me to buy clothes at the mall because they don't really sell a lot of big and tall stuff.
Yeah. I apparently, according to my last visit to the doctor, I'm getting shorter, so it should be easier for me to buy.
Oh, really?
At the mall. But yeah, for a while, I could barely find, you know, any pants that would fit because being so tall. And now that my midsection is widening, I need bigger shirts, and they're not always available every place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, my daughter's medication's ready.
Oh no. So yeah, I mean, to go to they have a big and tall section in the stores at the mall, but the selection is limited. I usually go to the big and tall store, or I buy stuff online, you know. Mm-hmm. And the big and tall store is not in the mall; it's across the street from the mall, you know.
I think the problem with malls is they've priced themselves out of existence, and I know it's not entirely their fault because they're paying, you know, buttloads in rent every month or year, however they do that, and that's the mall owners just gouging the stores, so the stores have to pass it on. You know, most of the time, if I want something, unless the mall is the only place to get it, I won't go there because I know I'm going to pay more than I should have to there.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually only go these days. Most of the malls in Birmingham have closed anyway. We had 3 main malls. The Galleria was the big one, and then we had a couple of smaller ones. The smaller ones have closed. One of them was completely torn down and turned into a Walmart. The other one, the building is still there, and they're kind of debating on what they want to do with the building. For a while, they were talking about turning it into a church, and then they were talking about turning it into a prison. Like, don't turn it into a prison. It's right in the middle of town, you know? But yeah, I only go there probably at Christmas. You know, I used to love to take the kids there when they were small just to go to dinner because there were so many choices and nobody could complain that they didn't want. I don't want to eat there. I don't want to eat there. Well, do you want to eat there, or do you want to eat there, or do you want to eat there? Because they're all right here.
Food court is great. I love. You know what we do? Because I've always been shy about free samples. I'll go like 3 aisles out of my way to avoid someone giving out samples of wine or something at the store. Sharon has no shame. We'll go to the food court and she will go all the way around and get every one of the free samples that they're giving out.
I think Brandon has a great point in the comments there, saying the closest mall to him realizes more about entertainment than shopping, has been working towards that. There's a movie theater, a bowling alley, a comic shop, and a lot of restaurants. And that sounds like the best idea. If I were in charge of trying to make them all viable in this day and age, and then that's what you do. You have to turn it into not just a collection of stores where you go and shop at and wait for the rare occasion when people need multiple things. It's, oh, I need to get this and this and this, and there are 3 different types of things, and there's no store nearby that carries all 3, and even that is incredibly rare. There's always going to be, let's be honest, a Walmart that has pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
A Walmart is like an entire mall just crammed into one building. So you need a multi-purpose space to draw the people in like that. You need a place where, okay, it has some stores, we need to do some shopping, and we need to bring the kids along, but we don't want to drag them through the store because then they're going to get annoyed and they're going to whine. So send them to the video arcade or send them to the comic book store to browse. And then after we do the shopping and the kids have had their hangout time, then we eat at one of the places in the food court and then you leave. It's a whole bunch of stuff that you've accomplished and it's all in one space. And that's how it should be. Now, I know that some malls out there, never one that's been near me, but there's such a thing as a mall that has a movie theater in it, which would be a good idea. The mall close to me used to have a video arcade, a small one upstairs, and then they closed that one down. And I remember my folks took my brother and I to the mall, and we went in through the upstairs entrance right by that arcade. And when we walked in, we saw the arcade was gone. We were devastated. No! And our parents were kind of like, "Oh, that's a shame. They closed it. Oh well. No, okay. Well, we'll keep on shopping. Come on, let's go." And they took us downstairs to the like geographically furthest point from the arcade, where they built the new arcade, which was 3 times the size and had a lot more updated games than the old one had. It was amazing. That arcade had the Star Wars simulator game. I don't know if you guys ever remember, but it was a 2-seater. One person is the pilot and the other player is the gunner.
Yeah, I remember that.
Doing dogfights with TIE fighters, and I think it had a trench run level.
Was that still a like the green wireframe, or is that?
No. This was the like LucasArts level.
Oh, okay.
Graphics.
No, I never saw that one.
It was a good time. That's where I learned my Street Fighter. That's where I learned my tactics for the Simpsons arcade game. X-Men. Hey, listeners, who remembers the X-Men arcade game? Where you had 6 controllers on the one panel, and they had to put 2 monitors, because this is back in the days of CRT monitors for arcade games, and they put 2 CRTs next to each other in the cabinet to get the widescreen effect that they were looking for and have enough space for all the players.
I used to dump so many quarters into the Ninja Turtles arcade game, and because four people could play it at once, you know. And then when it came out for Nintendo, I got it for Christmas, And it's the same game, but the graphics are so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great when you splat one of the guys up against the wall.
Yeah.
That to me was always worth it.
This is Jennifer Downs. Is that her name? Yeah, Jennifer Downs. She says she's an urban planner and she's not enjoying this discussion.
Well, you know, my biggest problem with malls,
She can jump in and join if she wants. She can set it straight.
is that I don't like shopping. I never have. There was a comic strip. I think it was Sally Forth, or maybe it was For Better for Worse. It was one of those, you know, newspaper comic strips that's, you know, it's a family and it's all very wholesome, but not as unfunny as Family Circus. And in this particular one, the daughter, who was like a tween, I think she was like, you know, 13 or 14 or 12, 13, something like that. She goes to a store with her dad, and then they come back and they go home, and the daughter is just absolutely perplexed. And the mother's like, "What's the matter?" She said, "Well, we went to the store. We went straight to what Dad wanted. He picked it up. We went and paid for it, and we left. We didn't wander. We didn't look at anything. We didn't browse around." And the mother said, "Honey, you need to understand something. We go shopping, men go buying." And I was like, nothing has ever spoken to me more than this comic strip.
That sounds like For Better or For Worse.
I think it is. I tried to find it the other day, and I wasn't able to track it down.
I think from what I've heard, I think that strip might still be going now. And if it is, and even if it's not, up until the point that it stopped, my understanding is that the writer and artist kept it moving in real time. All the characters aged appropriately for how long it was running, which is why you would see the kids, they were starting to grow up and they were having kids. And then eventually the kids were the parents and the grandkids were the kids. And the strip followed them instead of the original family. That in these days of web comics and the modern comic strip, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
It's like the Simpsons. You know, Bart's been in the 4th grade for 30 years. You know, or whatever. Brendan says if he goes to a comic shop or a hardware store, he goes shopping. I say I go shopping. Really, I go browsing. You know, if I go to the bookstore, I go browsing. You know, because there's way more stuff in there that I want to buy than what I'm actually going to buy.
I will always at least buy something. Anytime I go to the used bookstore a couple times over, where I got Chris's book.
Yeah.
I'll always buy at least one book.
Yeah, I'll buy a little something because I don't want the guy that owns the place to think that I'm just there to hang out or whatever, you know. So,
considering the prices, I usually end up buying like at least 6 books because the prices of this place are incredibly low, and it's the biggest bookstore I've ever seen, used or otherwise.
We have you know, like Barnes and Noble and Books A Million. My wife will go shopping somewhere and I'll go walk around the bookstore and I'll usually buy like a magazine or something, because most of the books that I read on my phone. You know, it's just easier to carry them around with me that way. And but I will, you know, I'll buy a magazine. Usually, you know, used to when Mental Floss was out, I'd always buy a Mental Floss magazine, but they're not even producing that anymore. Yeah, Brandon, that sounded like Rick's landline phone. Here's an interesting segue. Alan says you can buy the Turtles game by Arcade 1-Up for $3.99. It's about 3/4 scale. Have you seen those Arcade 1-Up games that they sell at like? I mean, you can buy them online, but I know they sell them at Walmart.
I've seen some of them. Yeah,
those are really cool. And every time I go to Walmart, I'm like, I really want one of these. And I can see I would just set it up in my apartment, like in the dining area in front of the front door or whatever. But I would want to have like 3 or 4 of them and like make my own little mini arcade.
You want to have a little mini arcade in there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck because at this point, I don't think I'd even be able to fit one of those machines in here.
That goddamn phone hasn't rung in days. Now, in the last half hour, this one and that one.
I don't even have a landline connected in this apartment because the only people that ever call it our telemarketers.
Yeah.
We tried to do that, but we're like, we've got a toddler in the house, we've got an autistic teen in the house, and it's best to have an emergency backup in case
a phone that can't get lost behind a couch.
Yeah. Well, that could still happen. It's the wireless.
Oh well.
We were talking about the arcade 1-up video games that are out. Have you seen those at like they got them at Walmart? They're like arcade cabinets, but they're not full size.
Like a little smaller than the standard, but still a cabinet you can buy and put in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon says he's trying to convince his wife to let him build a full scale arcade cabinet. I've thought about doing that, but then I looked at how much it would actually cost. It almost cost as much to build one as it would to just buy one.
But the
mechanics and stuff are cheap, but to build the actual cabinet and to paint it and do everything that you want to make it look,
it would be
the way you want it to look.
Would be the plywood to build the cabinet. It's probably less than $150, but but yeah, and the CRT you can use probably any. You probably get your hands on a decent CRT screen at any thrift store. But if you want the actual decals that go on the outside, the actual artwork, that's probably where the cost comes in.
Yeah.
The way that you could make it a little more worthwhile though is one, I would say use a flat screen rather than a CRT. We don't need to force ourselves to live in the old days with that. But with the innards of the cabinet, what you want to do is install. I don't know the terms for building an arcade machine, but you want it to be, rather than just one game in one cabinet, you want to get an emulator that you can load. Yeah, you just load all the games into. So you spend the money for one cabinet, but then it ends up being like however many games you want it to be, instead of buying multiple cabinets. Yeah,
that'd be the way I would want to go. I would want to be able to play multiple games on the same machine. But yeah, those arcade, every time I see them at the store, I'm just, I mean, $3.99 is expensive, but it's not undoable, and to get like the one from Mortal Kombat has 3 games in it. The Ninja Turtle ones, I think, has 2 games in it. And then they even have a Star Wars one that may be the one that Alan's talking about here. Alan, the Star Wars one that you got, is it the tabletop one where you sit down at a table and the screen is on top of the table? You guys know what I'm talking about, those old games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we used to have them in the Pizza Hut.
Yeah, they got a Star Wars one like that Arcade One makes, and it's like $3.99, $4.99, something like that, and it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I would. There's a YouTuber that I watch that he does a lot of gaming reviews and stuff like that, and Arcade One sent him like 10 of these machines for him to review. And so he turned his dining room into an arcade. The thing is, they're not full scale. So to make it high enough to where you can actually stand without having to bend over, you have to buy a riser to go with it, which is another $100 unless you build one, Yeah, less than $50 to make a multi-system emulator. Alan says that's the cocktail version. That's Star Wars wasn't in that stuff. I thought the one that I saw was a Star Wars game.
Yeah, I kind of thought that I saw one of those once upon a time, but I could be wrong. I think the most common cocktail version game that I saw was always Pac-Man.
It may have been Pac-Man.
Yeah, I usually saw either Space Invaders or Ms. Pac-Man, actually.
Yeah.
That's what I saw the most frequently. I sucked at both games. So that's the thing. I was never all that good at video games, so they weren't that important to me. And when Defender came out and I had to worry about more than 2 controls, I was done.
I always said to myself that as I got older, I was like, these games are probably going to be way easier when I'm older. No, they're not.
Nope.
I've never. I'm an idiot when it comes to Pac-Man. I just can't play it.
Hey, a few years back,
there are websites you can go to and you can find like old ColecoVision games and stuff. And I thought, oh well, this is going to be cake now. And man, Pitfall just kicked my ass so many times.
Oh yeah.
You can go to archive.org and they've got emulators of a lot of different old arcade games that you can play.
Yeah, there's a couple of those sites out there. I think Classic Retro, I think, is another one that I found a few. I started playing the Atari 2600 version of Ghostbusters.
Oh God,
That was a good
Oh man,
time.
that 8-bit music just gets stuck in your head.
there's only 2 Ghostbusters video games that's ever come out that I've thought were worth playing. One of them was the one for Sega that came out in the late 80s, and it was a side scroller. It was way better than the Nintendo version. And the other one was the one that came out in the 2000s. It came out for everything, PlayStation, Xbox, you know, all that kind of stuff. I actually bought that game 3 times because when it came out, I had a PlayStation 2 and they made it for PlayStation 2. So I bought it. And then we got a Wii and I bought it for the Wii. And then we got an Xbox 360 and I bought it for the Xbox 360. So.
See,
I think I played the Wii
game
version
consoles
once.
in my whole life. One was Super Pong that my father gave to my brother and me. And here's a tip for all of you aunts and uncles and folks that don't have kids, but you know people who do, and you want to give presents to the kids. If there are siblings, don't give them one toy that they both own, because that's just trouble with a capital Trub.
No.
Here's another piece of advice. If you have 2 children, if one of them's a little older than the other one, if your older child asks for a toy for Christmas, but you can't afford it, then the next Christmas, don't buy that same toy for the younger one. Because that happened to me. I begged for a Game Boy when I was a kid, and my mom and dad couldn't afford it. On today's standards, they were pretty cheap. I mean, you're talking about like $120, $130, but in
40 grand by today's in
1988, you know, that was a lot of money. So I asked for that, and they were honest and said we can't afford it. You know, the next Christmas my brother asked for one and he got one.
Ooh.
And I was like, but I asked for that last year, and they were like, that was last year.
Those last year, and they're way cheaper now.
You can play with this one. Yeah, you can play with this one, and then as Christmases would go by, the next 2 or 3 Christmases and birthdays, they would give me games as a gift to play on his Game Boy. Oh. And of course, there would always be a fight. Oh, you can't play with my Game Boy, but it's my game, you know. And then he left it at school and it got stolen. So that was the end of that anyway.
See, the problem for me was that by the time like
Brandon's
the Atari came out and ColecoVision and all that stuff, I was 17. My folks were like, "You want one of those things? Get a fucking job and buy it yourself."
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. That was wrong, but
I had something I was going to say and I've lost it. Oh well. So I'm hesitant. Well, no, never mind. No, we're not going to do that.
okay.
What do you guys think about the possibility of Michael Keaton coming back as Bruce Wayne in the Flash movie that they're making?
That's fine. That was the part of the role I thought he did well. I know I've said this before, but there are folks listening now that we haven't seen before, and welcome. Hello. I'm glad to see y'all. Okay. Let's explain something really quickly. This is supposed to be Brunch with the Admiral, but I could not get my StreamYard to stream to the what do you call it? The At Home Con page. So Sean has graciously hosted the call. So, and you've been doing a great job of keeping this thing rolling. Now that I finally have this inside me, I'm functional now. If you don't know me, my name's Rick, and the whole Admiral thing came about as an unfortunate screen name choice 12 years ago that just never left me alone. And it's like, all right, whatever. If you want the full details, don't worry about it. It's not that interesting. And now I forgot what we were talking about.
It was supposed to be brunch with the Admiral, but you're not driving.
Yeah, but I had something I was gonna say. Oh, this is a sad.
You said there's a lot of folks out here that we haven't seen before.
We haven't seen before. Yeah, and I was going somewhere with that.
It's early.
It is.
Did it have to do with Batman?
Oh yeah,
Batman.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. There we go, Batman. My Batman, I know I don't look it, but I'm actually 56 years old. And none of you say a goddamn word.
I was going to say something nice, but fine.
My Batman was either Gary Owens voicing a cartoon character on Justice League, or Super Friends. Sorry, it wasn't even Justice League, was it? And then the 1989 Tim Burton Batman came out. And when they announced that Michael Keaton would be playing Batman, I was right at the front of the, are you effing kidding me? Yeah. Well, that wasn't his fault, but and I love the movie. I own the movie. I've owned it on like several different formats. I've seen it 100 times. I love the fact that there are supercuts out there that count up how many people Batman kills in that movie, because every time some newer Batman fanboy, Batman doesn't kill, like, bullshit, he doesn't. He killed dozens of people in that film.
They really need to start qualifying that with comic book Batman doesn't kill, because cinematic Batman has been killing for decades.
Well, and comic book Batman originally had 245s and dropped a dude from a helicopter in his first damn issue. So the whole Batman doesn't kill is a relatively new addition to the character. But I digress. I always thought that Michael Keaton was great as Bruce Wayne. I loved his performance as Bruce Wayne. Never bought him as the Batman. He's just not. Okay, the comics I grew up reading, the Superman and Batman comics I grew up reading, both Superman and Batman would make Schwarzenegger look tiny.
Yeah.
And every time, Christopher Reeve, they did a good job. I mean, the dude worked his ass off to try to get bulked up, but it just didn't show really through the costume. But Michael Keaton's like my size. He's just a guy like me, and for him to be Batman, I never bought it.
Yeah, I think they were in the mindset of all the muscles were going to be in the suit, so it didn't really matter who was Batman, because all you were going to see of Batman was this, and so they put so much muscle in the suit. But of course, like I said, he could barely move in that suit.
Couldn't move in it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the aesthetic of the movie. I love the fact that you could not pin down a time period for the film, because they had a lot of modern things, but then they also had blimps and rotary phones, and it just it was.
The cars were all like 30s versions.
Yeah, lots of noirish Art Deco stuff in that design.
This was before, as the British, as the British like to say, this was before Tim Burton crawled up his own ass.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that exact same thing right now.
And I loved it. Ambiguity is something that used to bug me as a kid, but the older I get, the more I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only two Tim Burton Batman movies were so awash in ambiguity. It was great. I just never bought Keaton as the Bat. I bought him as Bruce Wayne. And so if he's coming back as Bruce Wayne, that's fantastic. And again, This is nothing, I'm not saying anything new here, but I think George Clooney could have been the best. He had both Bruce Wayne and Batman looked good on him, but he got the worst goddamn script in history.
Yeah. If he had been given something good to work with, then he could have been stellar. But
yeah,
even doing his best with what they gave him was not nearly enough.
Well, and
can't be saved.
Schumacher.
Should we acknowledge Joel Schumacher passed away?
Yeah, he did. He did pass away this week. But he was looking at the Batman and Robin as like a toy commercial. Basically, I think that was more the studio. The studio was telling him to make it a toy commercial. But Chris O'Donnell actually did say that before they would start a take, and right before he would say action, Schumacher was saying, "Now remember, it's a cartoon." It's like, no, it's not.
For a while, I thought that spoke really ill of Joel Schumacher and his mindset for it, and I really didn't care for it until I came to realize that he was saying that because that's what he was being told to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't really blame him because, even at the time, it was clear that all of that neon and stupidity and, the nipples on the suits and the silver cod pieces and the different cars and boats and planes and helicopters, all that. It was so clear that we need to sell shit.
Well, I really liked, I know Batman Forever gets a lot of crap, but I really liked Batman Forever because it reminded me of the old 60s TV series. It's like that was they were trying to do that in a modern take on it,
Yeah. I loved Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, but again, she got totally hosed and being put in the worst movie they did.
And for some reason, Schumacher, whenever you bring up Schumacher's name, especially in the circles that we're in, Batman and Robin, he made Batman and Robin, but he made so many great movies. I mean, he's the director of St. Elmo's Fire, Lost Boys, Flatliners, Dying Young,
genius.
Falling Down, The Client, A Time to Kill, 8mm, Phone Booth.
Maybe not the best example, 8mm, but at the same time,
Flatliners was good too. That's one of I haven't seen most of his movies because they don't generally fall into the Venn diagram of movies that I like or that I'm interested in. But Flatliners was good and it was very underrated.
One of Samuel L. Jackson's first performances that I remember was in A Time to Kill, John Grisham's story.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Yeah, I killed them out. Hope they burn in hell. But yeah, but as far as Michael Keaton, I know that Brandon made a comment here that it's probably going to be an image in the Speed Force, which is probably accurate, judging by what we got in the crossover this year on the CW when they started promising all these people were going to be in this, and then they were in there for like 10 seconds. Burt Ward is going to be here, and Burt Ward said, "Holy red sky of death." And that was it.
And then Michael Keaton's big appearance was a picture on the newspaper.
Yeah.
That Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle were getting married. Now, if it's just a little brief cameo like that, then, fine, cute. Okay, sure. If they make it an actual role that's got some substance to it, then I think that would be great. I would be thrilled to see Keaton come back and actually play the role, not just make an appearance. However, I'm very concerned about the project and the production that they're talking about putting him in.
Flashpoint.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like a nice idea when they first came up with the notion of, okay, we're going to do Man of Steel, and then we're going to do a crossover with Batman, and then Wonder Woman and Aquaman and a Justice League movie, and it's going to be great. And then we're going to do Flash and Cyborg. Yeah, it sounds good. And that was like, it feels like 20 years ago when they came up with that idea, and they still haven't been able to make this Flash movie.
Mm-hmm. And
there comes a point where you have. What's that?
And they're going to do Flashpoint.
Yeah, for quite some time, the anticipation has been the Flash movie is going to be Flashpoint, and the more and more time goes by, and the more that the DC film universe, Dave and Jason, the more that movie universe starts to fall to pieces around itself. the more people have been saying that a Flashpoint movie will serve to reboot the live action film universe that they're trying to build. And and explain away things like why Ben Affleck isn't here in the universe anymore and things like that.
I don't know the comics. I don't know the details of the story. But what I do know is one of the audience that they're going to need to entice, because I'm not, and as a Star Trek fan, I've been hearing for decades now that we are not who, the fans are not who the movies are aimed at. And so for once I'm coming at this from the other side saying, I watched 4 seasons of The Flash, and Flashpoint was what finally pushed me away from it. And now they're going to do it again in a movie.
Flashpoint. I don't know why they even called it Flashpoint. That wasn't Flashpoint.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
And my initial response is, you say they're doing Flashpoint as a movie. I say, I've already seen it and didn't like it.
Well, if they do Flashpoint, if they're actually doing Flashpoint, then Brandon's got a point. Michael Keaton wouldn't be playing Bruce Wayne. He'd be playing Thomas Wayne, because Thomas Wayne was Batman in Flashpoint and Martha Wayne was the Joker.
Don't say that name. Why'd you say that name?
and it would work for Wonder Woman and Aquaman to be in the universe, because in Flashpoint they're at war.
Yeah, but in order to tell the Flashpoint story that we saw in the comic books, they would have to turn this Flash movie into essentially Captain America 3, which was a Captain America film in name only. That was an Avengers movie when you really get down to it.
Avengers Light. Yeah, that's what I always call it.
And it would have to be that if they're going to do Flashpoint properly. My suspicion is that it's going to be a Flash movie. They're going to call it Flashpoint because that will give them the connection to the original story, that will give them the justification to tell a time travel and reality changing story. So Ezra can go back in time, make a change, and then when he gets back to the present, hey, look, I've set the stage for all the DCEU live action movies that are coming after this.
And John, yes, I did buy Keaton as Vulture because the suit worked. The suit worked to make this middle-aged guy a badass. I liked it. I love Keaton. Don't get me wrong.
I liked Michael Keaton in Birdman. Did you guys ever see Birdman?
Yeah.
No, and I keep forgetting I need to watch it.
It's kind of
fantastic. I don't have it anymore, but I'm going to fix that on the spot right now.
Because he's playing.
I remember something about when Batman '89 came out. To us at that point in time, Michael Keaton was Mr. Mom or Beetlejuice or the dude on Bosom. No, that's Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But, he was just screwball comedy guy.
Brandon says the Flashpoint will implode the DCEU and they can start making some standalone films without people asking how it fits in the continuity. I've already stopped asking that because
doesn't have any continuity.
Yeah, they're kind of just making standalone movies now anyway, but they do one or two things to kind of connect them, like they did in Shazam, at the end of it they had Superman. And it was the Cavill version of Superman, but we couldn't see his face because it wasn't Cavill. But
didn't see Shazam. Never want to.
Shazam was not a bad movie. It just wasn't the movie that they advertised.
Yeah. It was okay. It was fine. I have no problem with viewing it as its own thing and having absolutely no connection to Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, Wonder Woman, all that. Yes, Facebook user is correct. It was
Troy.
Fun.
Troy
the
says
thing about Shazam was
Troy's right, but that's about all it was. Fun.
I said at the time that it looks like it's a one joke movie where 12-year-old in super body making jokes about being a 12-year-old in a super body, and I asked people after they saw it, does that back off? And they're like, no, not really. And I was done with that joke by the end of the trailer. I don't want to watch a 2-hour movie about it.
Well, they had some other funny moments. There's a moment where both of the hero Shazam and the villain are flying in the sky facing each other, and the villain is monologuing, but he's about a mile away, you know, and he's monologuing, and Shazam's like, "You're like a mile from me. I can't hear you." You know? And it's like every scene that you see in a superhero movie like that, but they're
Uh-oh.
I think time we bring this to a close because Boz says you were misinformed, Rick. We're going to hold on. My door is opening. Why is my door opening? Oh, I have a visitor.
The call is coming from inside the closet.
Come here.
Is this Jacob?
Say hi. You gotta say hi to Rick and Scott. You say hi. Here,
Can
let
he
me
hear
put
us?
the. No, I can't hear you. Let me put an earbud in his ear.
Papa.
Paw.
Hi, sweetheart.
Say hi.
Hi, Jacob.
You gotta put this in your ear so you can
What the hell was
hear.
that?
He doesn't want to listen.
Don't want to
That's-
hear him.
That's. Can you say Scott?
Stop.
Can you say Rick?
Hick.
Hick.
You got that backwards, dude.
Huh? Oh, you forgot your book. Here you go. Book.
Just because I have a big beard.
All right. Yeah.
Rick's a difficult consonant.
Let's end this because we're gonna come back in about 20 minutes and we're gonna be talking Star Trek.
Mhm.
And everybody that joined, thank you. Join us again. If you are hosting a stream, I don't know what the problem is. Some people are able to stream straight to the page and some people are not. If you're hosting, if you have a problem streaming it straight to At Home Con, hey buddy, go ahead and stream it to your own personal page and then share it, make it public and share it to the page. And it may screw with the comments a little bit, but we can play around. We'll get all that figured out.
Yeah, I have some ideas about troubleshooting. I was so busy this morning that I didn't really try to log in until 2 minutes before showtime, and so I didn't have time to fiddle.
I'm lucking out because comments are going to be less important on my show. I don't want people sharing their guesses at the answers.
Yeah. You can turn the comments off if you have to.
And the audience answer is STFU.
Yeah. All right. We're going to end this and we'll be back in about 20 minutes or so. All right.
Bye-bye.
And in